folks, we're just talking about some of our favorite concerts we've ever seen and why. And I think that a lot of times, concerts for me anyways, were a lot more visceral when you were younger because you weren't as jaded. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, you go and the sound's not quite right and the seat's a little, whatever. Back then when you were younger, it was all about the jams. And plus nowadays when I go, especially if I go to a club, there's always some Mameluke that wants to go, dude, blah, 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 starts talking. I just want to listen to some jams. What? But some of the big concerts I remember when I was younger, when I was a sophomore in high school, John Mayall toured with a Reunited Blues Breakers as kind of a reunion tour before reunion tours were big, I guess. And Mick Taylor was playing guitar. And it was, as I remember the lineup, it was, well, I know it was John McVie, and it was John Mayall, and it was Colin something or other on drums, and then Mickey Taylor on guitar. And we had really good seats. And I was very young, so I was just, oh my God, he did everything that I wanted to do. You know what I mean? It was, he played some slide on a Stratocaster to start the show, I believe, and then he put his Les Paul on, and he was going through a twin, also through a Marshall 412 bottom, and it was just mesmerizing. Later, let's see, the following year was the first time I saw Eric Clapton live, and it was at this festival seating event. It was at Milwaukee Summerfest, as a matter of fact, and then they were at the main stage, and what you had to do back then is, if you wanted to get a good seat, you had to go at like 10 o'clock in the morning and then wait all day long until the show started at 8 o'clock at night. It was a long day. And so we waited. We had exceptional seats, and the band was, and I was huge into Albert Lee as well. So it was Clapton and Albert Lee on guitar. And I got to tell you, it was, I remember I came home that night. I remember I was a junior in high school. I woke my parents up, and I said, Mom, Dad! Like, what? And I said, I know what I want to do. I'm going to be a musician. Well, I knew I was going to be that anyway, but that concert was really when I said, this is it. This is all there's going to be to it. And of course, they were thrilled. And let's see, some of the other shows. When I saw the Allman Brothers, also at Summerfest, that was a big one for me. Because my brother never had the Allman Brothers records, but my sisters did. But, when you grew up in the late, when I was in the late 70s, I was just a punk. Was freshman year in high school was 1980. So when you grew up in the late 70s, Gregg Allman was more known as being married to Cher than he was to being the greatest white blues singer probably of all time. And there were certain tunes I'd hear on the radios, and I'd always hear about Duane Allman, Duane Allman, like, oh, I got to check these guys out, and da-da-da-da-da. But it wasn't until I saw him at Summerfest, and the Nighthawks opened up for him with Jimmy Thackeray on guitar, and they blew my mind. And then the Allman Brothers played, and after I saw the Allman Brothers, like, oh my God. First of all, Danny Toller, loved that guy, and Dickie Betts. So, of course, Dickie Betts, hello. So I went home and I dug through my sister's records and I found Live at the Fillmore, and then that was it. And then years later, one of my favorite concerts was, I got done playing a gig in Milwaukee, and then we drove up to the bowels of Minnesota where there was this rock festival. And it was Little Feat, one of my favorite bands of all time. What was the Radiators, Little Feat, and then the Allman Brothers. And it was the Allman Brothers right after their Shades of Two Worlds record. So it was Warren Haynes breathing new life into the Allman Brothers with Dickie Betts, and they played all those tunes. And I just remember it was just a surreal experience. It was, when they would play, and when the Allman Brothers are dialed in, it's like a force of nature. There's no jumping around on stage. There's no, dancing and robotic maneuverings with the Garth Brooks microphones. It's these mutants, tattooed Mamelukes up there throwing down like it's like heaven just opens up for a minute and just goes, ah! And that's what was happening. It was just unbelievable. And I thought to myself, this is the power of rock being unleashed into the Minnesota night. And it was unbelievable. Those are the main concerts that come to mind. There have been others. I remember I saw the Steve Morse Band, 1984, the first tour after the Dixie Dregs were done, and I was right up to here. I was right there watching him in action when he used a Telecaster still, which sounded magnificent. That was a pivotal thing. When I saw Danny Gatton live, that was unbelievable. I saw B.B. King so many times, it's ridiculous. I saw Albert King a couple times. Stones was awesome, I gotta say. But my favorite moment of seeing Page and Plant, I was a huge Zeppelin fan, of course. I couldn't see Zeppelin because I was too young. When they toured in 1980, I was gonna go, and then Bonham died, and that was that. A couple cool stories, real quick. When I saw The Firm for the first time, my parents, I was in college at the time, and they were playing in Milwaukee like on a Wednesday night, and I was 2 hours north at the state school, University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point. And I told my parents, I'm coming down. Jimmy Page is going to be playing at the arena. I got it. You will not? You will not skip class to see some cigarette-smoking, smack fiend guitar warlord of the night? I said, oh, yes, I will. So I had to be quiet about it, little sneaky, came down, stayed over at a friend of mine's house. But I remember he came out, and I remember the stage was dark, and all you could see was the cigarette, the cherry of his cigarette go. And all of a sudden the lights came on, he had the scarf on, he had the telly, and he launched into this jam, and right before he takes his solo, he takes his cigarette, takes it out, pops it over his back, kicks it with the back of his foot, and then launches into this rock pose of doom. And I was like, this is the coolest guy. Lady Gaga can suck it. She's got nothing on that maneuvering. Are you kidding me? And then I saw Page and Plant, and I think Plant was getting a little burnt out about that. This was about 1995 or something. They're doing some tune where there's this long guitar solo, and we were sitting way on the boondocks, way to stage right. I mean, there was nobody around us, and me and this buddy of mine, and we're watching it, and Plant is on the side of the stage, and he's just kind of looking off because he looks like he was bored to tears. And he's kind of looking in our general direction. So I looked at him, and I always did this Robert Plant thing where I would go like this, and I'd go like he does, and Songer made the same. And so I looked at him, listening, and he starts laughing. I thought it was the funniest thing ever. So that was one of my greatest concert moments of all time, contacting in a humorous fashion with the Lemon Squeezer himself. So anyway, there's some concert stories for you. I hope you enjoyed them. We'll see you later.